Este episódio foi produzido em inglês. Você pode assistir a entrevista pelo YouTube, com legendas em português.
Este episodio fue producido en inglés. Puede ver la entrevista en YouTube con subtítulos en español.
Hello. In this episode, we will have an overview about the egg business in India. We will have a conversation with Manjunath Marapan, the founder of Happy Eggs, one of the first certified humane brands available to the Indian consumer. Okay, Manjunath, so welcome to this episode of the podcast. Thanks for accepting the invitation.
My pleasure, Lewis.
Well, so many people that will be listening to this episode are not from India and should be a little bit curious about how is the egg production, the egg market in India. So we're going to be discussing a little bit also about your company, about how the pandemic has impacted everything. But before, I'd like to ask you a little bit on the egg consumption and the egg production in India. Well, first of all, is egg one of the main products consumed by Indians, or not so much? I mean, the population in India is huge, so of course the consumption is going to be big too. But how Indians consume eggs?
Yeah, we have a huge population of 1.2 billion people. So if you even discard about 20 to 30% of people are vegetarians, but still, we could classify where there are pure vegetarians and there are a lot of people as vegetarians also, and who might not consume meat. But predominantly, to answer your question, definitely egg is one of the widely consumed food. And our per capita consumption is about 65 eggs with the last census, but I'm sure it has increased now. But still, when you compare it to the world standards, I think we are far, far behind. There are a lot of opportunities, and egg is becoming a very popular food. There's no doubt about it. And in fact, I'm sure we'll be touching this point going forward in our conversation. If you see at one end, a lot of veganism also is growing, but that's only reason because a lot of people don't find, humane eggs. So that is the reason they move towards veganism. In my personal experience, yes, I did have a couple of conversations with vegans who said that, okay, I don't mind consuming egg as long as it's coming from a human farm. So egg is definitely a widely consumed food. In fact, government is promoting it in the schools. Like, I think it's also there in parts of other world as well. I mean, where they've been promoting in terms of nutritional enriched food for the school kids and everything. Yes.
Okay.
So, and since it is also one of the very controlled food material, so for economically low class of people, egg is something that is widely popular because of the price.
Okay. And what about the structure of production? Is it more available on fresh markets like farmers market, or is it widely consumed on huge supermarket chains? How is the distribution? Do you have like national brands, or is more like a localized market, local brands? How is this?
See, in fact, the whole egg industry, packaging of eggs is only started in the last 15 years. I would say it has evolved only in the last 10 years. But predominantly eggs are being sold in the neighborhood stores. And the supermarket concept is only about 10 years old in Indian market. So still the neighborhood stores is one of the highest consumers, or that's where people buy eggs a lot. Of course, the people living in the city are still accessible to large format stores.
But do you have like nationwide brands, or is more like a localized consumption?
It is mostly a localized. See, like I said, the whole packaging of eggs has only started in the last 10 years. So we don't have anything that is a nationalized brand. So you can actually divide India into like maybe 3 zones, like the north, south, and the east. And the west to a certain extent. So like there are the strong producers and marketers in these zones.
I see.
So yeah, and like I said, it is very important, very interesting to note that egg industry itself is it's with a handful of like maybe 5 to 10 people, the entire industry in India. So all these brands are mainly owned by these people, or the subsidiaries of these people.
I see. Right before the pandemic in January, actually, of 2020, We met in India in a meeting where lots of cage-free producers gathered with the intention of creating an association of cage-free producers. So, well, just as anywhere in the world, I think the majority of the eggs in India are produced with farms of caged hens, right? So I'd like you to talk a little bit about this movement, the cage-free movement. How is it going? I mean, even with the pandemic, it's been growing? I mean, the producers are getting together. Are they starting to increase the cage-free production?
Yeah. So see, Happy Hens, I mean, we were the first one to start on a commercial scale free range farm. Of course, there was a cage-free brand much before us. But the whole focus on cage-free or free-range farm has only started in the last 4 or 5 years, because it took us some time to even settle down and understand where is the market, how do we produce this, and what is the, like we were more focused towards the production side, not on the market side. To be coming from a non-poultry background, of course, we had our own set of challenges. So in terms of the association, people have just started to notice that, there is a market for this. That is one thing.
Why? I mean, do you see some signs on the market?
Yes. Yeah. So basically, the people's preference, the consumers' preference have changed. See, if you just look at the Indian scenario, I mean, like 15 years or 20 years back when I was a kid, you would see movies where in movies you would see animals being maybe like, for example, a horse. If they use a horse in the movie, they would they would have scenes where the horse would like trip and fall and things like that, right? But today you don't see them. That's because the Indian government, as well as the consumers, the viewers or general Indian citizens, or today it's not only Indians living here, there's a lot of expats living over here. So they all are conscious about the animal welfare per se. Forget the food about. They're really conscious about animal welfare. To be another interesting thing is Bangalore is one of the cities that has got the most number of animal welfare organizations in the entire Asia.
Oh, really?
We have, I think, more. Yeah, we have more. I think we definitely have more than 10 to 15 animal welfare organizations. So, which means that the urban population very precisely are very, very conscious about the food they eat. So, like I said, even the veganism of 10, 15 years back was like hardly heard about. Today, you have every 10th person that you meet or every 20th person you meet is a vegan, right? Mm-hmm. So this is the shift that has happened in the market. Hence, a lot of people who are in the existing poultry or who want to get into a new business in terms with respect to poultry are exploring the cage-free or the free-range sector. So that is one of the reasons. To answer your first question, whether how this whole organization and the association is built, it is not easy. The existing poultry industry is a well-organized sector. And now we actually took, in fact, with the help of HSI, with help of a lot of other organizations who are working in the similar space, have been pushing, to form an organization so that we have a collective voice. So we took, to a certain extent, we took the lead because we've been in the space for like 10 years now. And we know who are the people who are practicing and in different parts of India, like, okay, this person, because a lot of them have reached out to us. That's how we know. They checked us out on a website. They said, okay, we are also interested to do like this. And some people have gone ahead and did it. And some people have not gone ahead. So we have a database of people who are practicing these kind of standards across India. And to a certain extent, we are like the front runner. So we definitely have a little ahead experience than them. So we share a lot of knowledge. We exchange ideas. We learn a lot of things from them also. Though they are beginners, they do have some great ideas and we learn from them. So all this kind of network we had, and somehow in the last, we have been wanting to form this organization for the last 6-7 years, to be frank, but somehow we were caught up with a lot of other things. And now we see there is a huge need, not a requirement, but definitely we need to voice our concern in a collective way. And we are pulling the people. I think very soon the organization will be registered. It's almost done. And in addition, the government has also started to recognize cage-free production and free-range production as a sector by itself. And they're also promoting, which re-emphasizes a lot of, within us to form the organization the earliest.
But how is this government organization? Is there do they have separate statistics for this kind of egg production? How is this government support, let's say?
No, unfortunately, we are too small. The industry at the scale at what in the regular cage industry is, we are very, very, very small. So it will take some time for government to focus on these numbers. But backyard poultry is really big in India comparatively. So backyard poultry constitutes to about close to about 18 to 20%. Yeah. So, but they all are small holding farmers, and they basically the eggs doesn't reach the market. It's consumed within the family, or maybe reaching the closest market, which is usually a small town or something like that. But when we are talking about an organized way of free range and a cage free farm in a little larger format, where about each farmer is having about 1,000, 2,000 or plus 5,000 birds, it is just growing. So at least we are happy that the government has identified, okay, this is the future. This is where the consumers are moving towards. So government has just woken up. I think soon we will have some more support from the government in terms of maybe giving us like bank support for the farmers to buy these, and a lot of schemes can be can be introduced, but government is looking at it. Very soon we will have.
Is there any sort of regulation regarding cage free or caged hens being designed or being implemented by the government, or there's no discussion on that?
Unfortunately, Luis, we don't have that. We've been speaking to government for almost 6-7 years now, but I think very soon government will take some measures in this and bring out their own standards. In any case, it's not going to be different from what we're doing. It's my understanding to a cage free or free range farm is very simple than a regular cage farm. So
it's a long road ahead, but there's no way back.
There's no way back. Exactly. We have just come a full round. We were actually backyard, and then we were cage free farm, and then we moved to the battery cage farm, and now we have going back the circle. So it's one full round.
Interesting. Let's talk a little bit on the impacts of the pandemic now. I know India has been hit hard with it. Let's explain a little bit how was the impact on the egg industry. In some countries with the pandemic, the consumption of egg actually increased because many people started to cook at home. But also depends on the company, because if the company sells a lot to restaurants, for example, then they were hit hard because a lot of them closed. So tell me a little bit, how was the impact of the pandemic in the egg industry in India?
Yeah, so let's take it as in general poultry, okay? Because so it was a shock, So when we went on to lockdown in the month of March 2020, there was no clear understanding between how the food has to move between states. Like India is so large, and Indian egg industry is being concentrated in few places. Like in South is one of the largest producer of eggs, which is one is Tamil Nadu, called in town called Namakkal, and then the other one is Hyderabad, which is based in Andhra Pradesh. So these are one of the highest producers of eggs. So in fact, they actually cater to almost more than 50% of India's needs, these two states. In fact, these two small towns. So imagine that there's sudden lockdown, and the stores were shut, and now these are different provinces, right? Different states. So which means that the egg industry, the eggs have to move from every day between two states. They move by train, they move by trucks, they move by local auto. And they move by flight sometimes to export.
And there was a lockdown on transportation too. The transportation stopped.
Exactly. Yeah, the transportation just abruptly stopped. And Indian egg industry do not have any cold chain facility, unlike in the Western countries where the eggs are being stored in a certain ambient temperature or cool temperature for future consumption in different climatic zones and things like that. So we don't have an infrastructure for that. So which means that every day whatever the eggs has been produced has to go to the market. So that's the scale. India produces close to about 20 to 25 crore eggs every day. So which means that many eggs were blocked. So it is an unimaginable concern at that point of time. And also government took some time to understand and also bring out some regulations saying that similar to foods like milk, similar to vegetables, egg is also one of the primary food. So which means that they have to be allowed to transport as normal as possible. So that was the instruction given by the government. By the time the instruction came, it was already 4-5 days.
Okay, but then the population had to change their consumption habits because suddenly they didn't have the food they needed because the transportation were all blocked. They were only eating like local from the neighbors and like this.
So and then by the time the government released the order saying that eggs have to be allowed to transport between states, and by the time that trickled down to the lower level officer who sits at the border and actually stops the vehicle and allows the vehicle, so it was already on week. So which means that 7 days of production which has been blocked or stopped, and then the whole effect of it in terms of cash flow and supply chain, everything was disturbed. And on top of it, also a lot of stores were closed, restaurants were shut. So I think it was one of the biggest challenge that every industry had, including industry like eggs and milk and any fresh food. The challenges are even more because we cannot abruptly stop the production, right? So we have to continue feeding. So that was another thing, the feeding was another big concern.
The feeding of the
One
birds.
was the birds, because the food material has to come from different parts of the city, different parts of the country to one particular zone, and the factory has to function. The food has to come on time. So it was a nightmare. It took, I think, close to about 15 days to get normal. But the challenges still continued, like you mentioned that, if you're catering to hotel industry, then it was hit for that particular business. If they're catering to even stores, like we do a lot of business, like 80% of our business with the stores, we were also hit because the buying pattern of the people changed immediately. They stopped going out. They expected everything to come home, or instead of taking the car and going to their favorite store, they were just relying on the store which was just next to them. Just like, I don't mind any eggs, I just want to buy as long as anything that is available next to me. And so this is the challenge. And of course, egg was also very clearly stated as one of the primary food to improve your immunity, and egg was also recommended during the pandemic times to fight COVID and all that. But we are like I said, we are there now with the premium stores. All the premium stores are in big malls, and all the malls were shut. So this is how we also lost a lot of business.
Yeah, then shifting now to your situation, let's talk about a little bit about Happy Hands. How was the beginning, Manju? Because I remember we started, I met you, I think it was 2018, long time ago. And at that time, you had lots of suppliers. I mean, I know you have created your farm like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And you rely a lot on small producers. Actually, you had much more before. Now you had less. Tell me a little bit about the idea of creating Happy Hands. How was what was the major purpose? What is this role of yours of supporting small producers? Tell me a little bit about the philosophy behind it.
Yeah. So Happy Hens was started in 2010. I don't come from any poultry background. I come from a family who are predominantly into agriculture and business. And I studied fashion design with textile. And I had an opportunity to rescue urban wildlife because animals always fascinated me. And I grew up in my house with buffaloes, with cows and chickens and everything. When during my college days, I rescued a lot of urban wildlife in Bangalore, and snake was one of my great interest. So this is my interaction. I would say this is the foundation for me to start Happy Hens. And we never really had a structured plan that, okay, we will start Happy Hens and this is how it's going to be. No, it all started over like a table or in a dinner. Like we were just having beer, and then we were like, okay, so there's something like this that's happening in the European country. And then definitely then the conversation, we saw that, there is a huge opportunity in India, and we looked around and we knew that there was not even a single brand of free range eggs in the market. There was only one brand which was based in Delhi, which is called the Kegs. And so we said, okay, chal, let's start. I mean, let's at least start having these quality eggs for our own house. Like I had one daughter at that time. And so I knew definitely a lot of my friends were also interested in quality eggs because I personally love eggs. I know a lot of my friends love eggs. And So we said, okay, let's start a farm and then let's distribute it among the friends. So that's how it started off. And then with simple conversation, I think within a minute, we had the name Happy Hens, like there was like, okay. And then within like 3 months, we spoke to one of a known person and said that, okay, you have a farmland. So we're going to invest a small set of batch of hens there. So let's start. That's it. And then no experience of poultry. So I took a small training with the Central Poultry Development Organization, which is based in Bangalore, close to Bangalore. And I took some basic cues about what's chickens and what do they expect, and about a little bit about vaccinations and what are the feeding pattern and things like that. But if you see from the year 2010 to 2012, almost 2 years went about understanding the birds. It's very important to understand the chickens' character and their needs and their instincts and things like that. Though I did grow up
at that moment, you had only one farm producing eggs.
Yeah, we started with our own farm. Yes, we started with our own farm. And in fact, like I went and booked a few chicks from the first shot I booked about 1,000 chickens, and then the one of our mentor, Dr. Mahesh, who's currently the Joint Commissioner of CPDO in Central Government India. So he told me very clearly, Manju, it's a great thought. I know this is the future, but I think you should start small. 1,000 chickens is a lot for you to handle the first shot. So I nodded my head like a good boy. Yes, sir, I understand. Let me start with 100 chickens. And then I came out and said, okay, I need to spend the same time and energy for 100 chickens as good as for 1,000 chickens. I went and booked 1,000 chickens. Yeah. And then it was a very hard learning. And I lost the 1,000 chickens in about 4 months. All the 1,000 chickens. So then I went back to him. I went back to him and I told him, sir, I think I didn't take your advice very seriously. So now I'm going to book my next lot, which is about 300 chickens. He said, good, that's where you start. And that's how it started off with 300 chickens. And then we slowly understood what is the feeding pattern, what should be added. And we started to make our own feed. And then we, a lot of learnings like this. And that's when I met Ashok also in 2012. And he was also practicing a similar free range model in Trichy.
Ashok today is your partner, right? And he's the one.
Yes, he's a partner. He's a co-founder right now. And so we joined hands together and said, okay, Ashok had a lot of experience about handling birds in a very organic way and treating the birds in natural treatments and things like that. So we joined hands, and I was also like happy to do that because I didn't want to handle the production as well as the marketing. And then so he said that I'll handle the entire production part of it, and so you could handle the market, which is since I was in the city. So that's how we started. So we talk about philosophy. So we knew, like when we introduced the brand in the market, the reception was great, fantastic. We did zero marketing. Even till today, we have not spent on the marketing. The reception was fantastic. Of course, we were in the shelf, we were out of the shelf, we were in the shelf to understand. Like I said, we were understanding still the life cycle of a chicken. So during this time, we very clearly sat down and wrote our philosophy. What should we focus on? Happy Hens, yes, understood. By the name itself, we should practice a humane farm standards. That's clear. There's no doubt about it. But the target audience for a purely an animal welfare product is very limited. It's very niche. So we wanted to talk more about our eggs so that, we could cater to a larger market. So that's when we said, okay, let's focus on the nutritional aspect. Let's fortify the eggs. Like then we looked around and we came across a professor who was an expert in omega-3. How do we fortify omega-3 eggs naturally on in an egg? And so we worked with them very closely, and then we introduced clean food. So we don't term ourselves organic because there's a lot of misconception in the Indian market that free range eggs are organic eggs and brown eggs are organic. And so we were like very conscious about it in the very beginning. We told them we are here to produce clean food. So we will try to improvise on the quality of the food and the quality of the nutrition as and when we grow. So like I said, we first focus was towards humane practice. The second focus was towards the clean food and nutritious food. Now comes the third focus that was like, okay, when we have identified the model right, now to work on a larger model, we had to go to the farmers. There's no way. So I don't know how it's going to work in the West, but definitely in India, we have to go for a decentralized production model. That is the only future. So
to increase production, I mean to increase productions through
the market is also very widely spread. So we could decentralize the model in different zones so that they could cater to the local market. where we could cut down the logistic cost and ensure the fresh eggs are going to the market. So to this, we had to first come up with a model because it has to be attractive to a farmer, because the farmer is coming to any agricultural or any integrated model only first primary to earn money, right? So we had to fix that. So it took us some time, like about 6-7 months, to identify what's the price has to be fixed, how the logistics has to be maintained, how the feed supply has to go, how the working capital has to be worked out. This it's a huge set of challenges, and then we fixed one by one. We are still, I won't say we fixed it to the best, but definitely we have done fairly good, and very soon we will be one of the best model. But what I can definitely assure you today is Happy Hens model was recognized one of the top 20 social enterprise in India in the year 2018, because today the farmers who are working with us, who are integrated with us, get about 50,000 rupees with 2,000 birds per month, which is a huge money.
And they have the whole production distributed 100%. They don't have any risk of not selling it, right?
Yeah, correct. So we guarantee them, we train them. First thing we screen the farmers first, and then we train the farmers in our own farm. Then we help them in building the infrastructure. So like we give them the plan and things like that. And like now that we are certified, so we give them as per the certified standards, like what's a nest box, perch, and things like that. And then we also help them procure the chicks, the day-old chicks. And then up to then once the laying starts, then we give our own feed.
Right.
And we give them 100% buyback of the eggs. Okay.
And how was the decision of doing the animal welfare certification, and why did you go for that, and what was let's say the benefits of that?
Certification is primarily we wanted to get one standard format, so we needed one specific standard format, and it has to be a proven model. See, I know, like when you came and your inspectors visited the farm, doing free range, cage free, we need not be influenced or been forced to do it. We are anyway doing it, but there are small aspects like like how do we ensure the ammonia level, how does the ample number of nest box reflects on the quality of the production and the management. And it's small things, but actually has a huge impact on the overall production cycle. So that is something which has really benefited us. So that's also something we did to our farmers. We told our farmers very clearly, the certification is not something it's not like a feather on my hat or anything like that. No, it's not for that. It is for you people to actually make this a more viable project. So right now, maybe you might be getting a 60% productivity, but definitely under certification, your productivity is going to increase by 5 to 10%. And you are also stopping a lot of you're controlling a lot of biosecurity issues well in advance. So these are things, this is a language that we used with our farmers to ensure that they were full participatory with the certification.
Yeah,
so
it's a way to give them like a framework, right, on how to work and how to make sure that the results will be positive.
Yes, it took us some time. I think they have definitely realized it, and it has brought us at a certain structured way of managing our farm, which is very, very important. I would say it is beneficial. And in addition, there are like right now a lot of farmers who are just cropping up and saying, oh, we are also free range farmers, we are also cage free farmers. So then to give that authenticity to our end consumer, I think certification is playing an important role. Yeah. And also now that there are a lot of corporates, of course, now because the pandemic, it's been a little disturbed, but very soon we will resume back our corporate supply, where certification plays a very, very important role.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, do you have like companies in India that use eggs as ingredients that are looking for this kind of product, of a cage-free product or free range?
Yes, very much. Like India is home to a lot of Western companies. So a lot of American, a lot of European companies, a lot of South American companies, Japanese companies, a lot of people throughout the world have their office in India, where I'm sure you are aware that they all have policy towards procurement of cage-free eggs. Yeah. And we are catering to their commitments. It's a bit slow, but I think, and it was slow, and now it just got disturbed with the current situation. But I think it's going to catch up to the time lost. and we will
Excellent.
definitely cater that.
Yeah. Okay. Now towards the end of our conversation, how do you see the perspectives for the future now with the pandemic, when it's last weeks, and perspectives of I mean, do you think the consumer has a different view now of the quality of the food he has to consume with this new reality he lives in?
No, very true, very true. Consumers have become really extra conscious about the food they consume today. And a lot of other expenditures have dropped, right? There's no travel, there is no dine out, and there's no movies. And, and also people are more conscious about healthy food. So when the moment, in the whole ecosystem, I think people have definitely started to focus on quality food. So which means not only to eggs, for anything that is coming from organic produce or humane produce has got a lot of value, in particular to eggs, because egg plays an important role in keeping an immunity high. I think the consumption, the need for quality eggs has definitely gone up, and we just waiting for the market to settle down. The need has gone up, but it's just a little disturbed, so we just want the people to settle down. People are a little apprehensive whether office is going to start, will there be another lockdown, things like that. But I think once that settles down, you will see that the need for cage-free, free-range eggs or organic eggs will just exponentially grow to a large extent.
Excellent. Okay.
There is no doubt about it.
Yeah.
There is no doubt about it.
Okay, so we wish a huge success to Happy Hands in the future, and thanks a lot for participating in this episode, Manju.
Thank you, Louis. Thank you. It is always a pleasure talking to you. Wishing you a good day as well. Yeah.
Hello, you are listening to the Certified Humane Podcast. Here you will stay up to date on the best practices of farm animal welfare from interviews with professionals and companies that work in the field. You can also follow these interviews on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Certified Humane. Stay tuned and well informed.
Olá, você está ouvindo o podcast Certified Humane. Aqui você vai ficar por dentro das melhores práticas de bem-estar para animais de produção a partir de entrevistas com profissionais e empresas que atuam na área. Você também pode acompanhar as entrevistas em nosso canal no youtube.com/certifiedhumane. Continue conosco e fique bem informado.
Hola, usted está escuchando el podcast Certified Humane. Aquí le contaremos las novedades de cuáles son las mejores prácticas de bienestar para los animales de producción. Compartiremos entrevistas con profesionales y empresas que trabajan en el sector. También podrá seguir estas entrevistas en nuestro canal youtube.com/certifiedhumane. Acompáñenos y manténgase bien informado.